One in a million to one villain. Too hot to be in the kitchen, I'll end up melting the ceiling.
Welcome to Two Sides and One Coin. I'm your host today, Ben Fama Jr.
And I'm your boy, Javier. Make sure you say it twice. What's going on, Ben? How you been?
All right, man. I had a pretty good Thanksgiving. How about yourself, bud?
Pretty good, man. I can remember only half of it, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Well, we're fortunate today. We got a couple of guests you guys can see today. We got Mr. Robert Stanley in the house.
Right, the reason.
Robert, why don't you introduce yourself before we talk to Jason?
Sure. I host the Right to Reason podcast, where we discuss philosophy, politics, what have you. A lot of psychology. I'm really getting into psychology stuff lately. My favorite thing to do is to get two psychologists or three psychologists all in one room, or one recording where they're all talking to each other, and then I just shut the fuck up, and get out of their way, and that's been a lot of fun. So I've been trying to produce more of that. I just had an episode, it'll release Sunday, where I was speaking with her name evades me right now, but she's a
because she's a woman. You forgot her name.
That's what it is. It's a chauvinist.
You're fucking done.
Excellent.
Just lost all our listeners. All right, Jason, well, tell me about yourself, buddy. The audience may not know who you are. Who are you?
Yeah, I'm just an old school musician.
You like
And
women
so-
at least, right? Because I mean, there's a fucking Robert over here.
Yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. I meet all the criteria. I'm a white, heterosexual, able-bodied male. The only thing that I missed out on was the religious part. Unfortunately, I happen to be an atheist.
Sad.
I know. Those
So,
lefties got to me.
So
yeah.
basically, we were having a little banter before we started the show. So maybe, Robert, if you want to pick up kind of what we were actually talking about, let the audience know, fill us in, and maybe we'll just pick it up from where we left off. You want to fill in what we're doing?
Yeah, we'll let you finish this time. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that last guest I was talking about, no, I'm just kidding. I'll move on. But my point was that I would agree that many of the cultures that we hold to, and what was the term you used, Javier? It wasn't ethics, it was
Values.
thank you.
Conservative values.
That is conservative, even if you're liberal. And while I'm liberal, and I think that it's most pragmatic position to be in is to be liberal, because at any point in human history, Javier as a conservative would have been a liberal. He's just not a liberal right now, which lets you know that liberalism is the logical path of human development. But our values are mostly conservative, things that we would all agree with, like putting your children as a high priority in your Maslow's hierarchy, you know what I mean, of values, treating women with respect, or
I can see
not being racist, or
I bet
I'm working that one back in.
Yeah, been getting a hard on. Treatment of women, okay.
Being honest, having good integrity, helping others, valuing your own society because you believe in its own values and that structure, as opposed to maybe a different society that has a different set of values. These are things that we would consider moral, and that's conservative. So whenever people say like conservatives are bad, liberals are good, that's just as naive as the alternative of liberals are bad. Liberals weren't bad throughout all of human history because we agree with them now, right? And conservatives aren't bad because we agree with many of the values that we have gained from conservative ethics.
Why is it that people seem to want to turn this into a sport, or claim that these basic values for even like success, for example, coming from a two-parent home, or getting married before you have children, having a job? I mean, for some reason, it's like this. It's like that's conservative values.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. To me, they're universal values that work no matter where you're from, what your religion is, or what your background is. I mean, these are certain things that we know for a fact you will do better in life with these values that obviously work. They're proven to work. but for some reason people they think that they buck this idea that, oh, that's just conservatism, so we have to, we're against that. I mean,
Right.
I don't understand it,
But it is
Yeah.
conservative.
I'll try to put a little spin on this.
Yeah,
and kinda-
it might be conservative, but is it conservatism? It's not
Oh, I see.
just, you know what I mean? It's not just conservative.
political, Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. It's not.
right.
I don't, well, at least I don't think it is.
I don't think most people understand, like, conservatism is not a political ideology. It's more philosophical than it is political.
Right.
It's about human nature and how we tick and what are the best things to do to mitigate the worst of us and try to enhance the good of it. And I can be a conservative and not be political at all. I can believe in the family structure. I can believe in fathers in the home. I can be against abortion and not be political. Like, whether or not you pro-life or pro-choice, you can still have a totally different voting pattern regardless of what you feel with abortion, because that could be a personal decision in your own life. You don't have to force that on other people. But a lot of times is the rift between conservatives and liberals I see is this. Liberals have the fundamental aspect in their mind that the institutions must change in order for it to fit the times that we're now living in. Conservatives make the argument that the institutions that we currently have now is working, and it has been working, and we should think really hard before we try to change these things. And therefore the liberal rebut is, well, you want to preserve these institutions, but these institutions are racist, they're sexist, they're all of these things, so therefore you must be condoning these things. And that's where the rift comes between the conservative ideology and the liberal ideology. And I think that's what we're actually fighting over, if that makes any sense. But
It does, but can't both be true? Do they have to? One has to be true and the other false? Can't both of those things be true?
I agree with you there, Robert. Both of those things are true. I mean, I actually stopped for a second the other day and thought to myself, why do we need a Bill of Rights? Who was it that was getting screwed out of their freedoms that we actually had to create a Bill of Rights? I mean, once I sat and I thought about that, like, we shouldn't need that today. We should. I thought it was very clear when they said all men are created equal, or maybe all people are created equal, but we're not. We're not created equal. But unfortunately, I think this country, what I love about it is we try to achieve that equality, but at a great price. I mean, unfortunately, not everybody's created equally. Not everybody, there are people that are smarter than me. I mean, there are people that make more money than me. There are people that are better looking than me. But you know what? I mean, come on, man. Like, you have to love the fact that our founding fathers, those were some smart people, man. They really, I think that they knew, looking to the future, that, look, this is not going to be the way we're living right now, with all of everything that was bad going on, all of the colonizing, all of the slavery, all of the prejudice, all of that stuff. And even the infighting amongst the religious. I mean, that the idea that the First Amendment allows freedom of religion, or freedom from it for that matter. I mean, it shows you that these guys were on point as far as not only just back then, but for the future. The only problem is, to me, it just seems that there's this push because things aren't happening fast enough. We're in the 21st century, and everybody we're hella better off than our grandparents were. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, and this, you'll hear this a lot, like, well, as far as racism is concerned, or the power to racism, the power structures that be, they're not moving fast enough to make America equal, or to make the people in America equal as far as the institutions. But again, I'm always just like, well, you don't, you could cry about, oh, there's only 25% minorities in Congress right now, but you don't have anybody else to fill the seats. And until you get to a point where, we can have this ideal, maybe 50-50 integration to Congress, or where people are equally represented. I don't, it's going to be a tough game. I mean,
I'm not, and Ben, I want to get your thoughts on this. But I'm not necessarily for the whole ideal behind equal representation. I don't think. Why is that desirable? What the hell does that even mean?
You mean based on identity politics? Like,
Yeah. It's like we want equal representation. Like the Congress should represent the demographics of how America looks. I'm like, why is that? Why is that the goal? Like, for the life of me, there are Black people, for example, Black people who definitely want more representation of Black people in Congress. I'll ask most Black people, okay, what if that person that represents you is Candace Owens? She's Black, she's a woman. Oh, nah. See, everybody understands it's not really diversity when it comes to your race or your gender. It's a diversity of thought. People want somebody who think like them in those positions, not what color you are, because if that person is your same color or your same gender or whatever, but they totally disagree with your politics, you don't want them in there either. So why is that something that people bring up as the ideal or something to reach? For the life of me, it doesn't matter what your skin color is. It doesn't matter what your gender is. It could be 100% women, 100% Hispanic women in Congress. And if they were making the right moves and the right decisions for the country, why the hell do I care what their color is or their gender is? It makes no difference to me. And that, to me, is what real racism or real bigotry looks like. Telling somebody that they can't properly represent you because they do not look like you or share the same genitalia as you. That's the same kind of thinking. That's the same thing that white people told Black people. Oh, because you're not white, because you're not a man, you can't properly represent this country. That's BS.
yeah, I disagree, but I'll wait for Ben's response.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I think in that instance, who better to represent the group than the group its actual self? It's like if I said, should England represent all of Americans' values? Well, if they're not from America, how do they know what's best for America? I think the people within those groups are much better equipped to deal with those. It's not that you can't have an opinion or say something about it, but then again, I can only do so much, for example, as a white guy to understand a Hispanic person or a Black person. I'm never going to truly know the ins and outs other than listening to someone. I'm never going to truly know what women or gay people are going to go through. I try my best. I jam my damn hardest, but who's going to know those groups better than those groups of people and the issues that they face? Like how do I know that I'm qualified, even if I study all this to know that?
Even as a Black person, how the hell do I know if I'm qualified to speak on the Black experience or represent what Black people want or think? Because Black people think different things. They come from different communities with different backgrounds and different experiences. To me,
well, which is why, I mean, and to bring up your point, I think that's why no one should be looked at as a monolith in the sense, because I agree that if, like, anytime I've ever talked to you, Javier, I never consider you a Black conservative. I just consider you a conservative. I don't expect all the races to go to one side, even though I know it tends to be that way. But the reality is there should come a point where race isn't a factor or anything at all, to where people are now choosing the political ideologies. But I still don't even think we're there yet to even do that. Right. And I think the problem is that some parts of conservatism, maybe up and even till now, it's opening up a little bit more. But for years, conservatives always, at least in this country, always been known as someone who's been exclusive of others. It's always been a certain group and type of people. Now, hopefully with people like you, that'll change. And then once that we start to see more of that change and getting rid of that stupid ideology that there's this exclusion, then we're like, now we can just debate the ideas. So if there's a Hispanic Trump supporter, then I'm just debating him on the
here's the thing though, Ben.
Ideas instead of the race.
Most Black people used to be conservatives at one point. It wasn't until recently that most Black people started going Democrat for a majority. And most Black people share conservative values more than liberal values.
I don't think that's true.
Most Black people, that sounds really weird.
Most Black people were Republicans at one point.
This isn't that far back that you guys have had the right to vote and be involved in politics.
It wasn't that far ago that most Black people were Republicans. Martin Luther King and them were considered Republicans.
No, they weren't. He didn't have Republican values. I mean, he had some, but he mainly had values.
I don't consider. What I'm saying is, it wasn't I guess it was around the time of maybe the late 60s or so where Black people started majority voting for Democrats.
Really?
And yeah, and on top of that, I mean, I read a lot of Thomas Sowell, so this is where I'll get my information from.
Fair enough.
But to put it like this, well, when I say most Black people actually share more conservative values than they do liberal values, it's true. Most Black people are very fundamental Christians. Most of them most of them don't agree with abortion. Oh, okay. Yeah, most of them don't agree with abortion. Most of them are capitalists at heart, through and through. Most of them, the reason that Black people majority vote for Democrat is on one issue mainly, and I really do believe this, it's the racism narrative. The Republicans are racist, and the only way to cure racism is to vote for Democrats.
Well, that's because I mean, if you think about it, for years, it was Republican politicians that always voted against civil rights stuff, voted against legal stuff that was always going against Black people for years. They've always known that because of that. It's not like they just went to the Democrats and they were like, oh, well, these guys are, you know, the good guys. It was for years.
How so? Like,
well, look in the South during the civil rights movement, right? When they stopped Black people coming in from college, those were all Black senators, Republican governors, Republican senators. Most of the time, the people that were against the civil rights bill, not to say that the Democrats didn't do it too, but they were more likely to pass laws like that. They were more likely to be open. They were more likely to be in the ghettos and talking to people. You didn't see Republicans going out. And I think that's a mistake. And they should, because I think that if Black people are going to be like who you are, they should, because it should be about the ideas. If they believe in lower taxes or lower government, then any Black person, Hispanic person should do that. But I think for years, the Republicans didn't do that. And it's really well known in this country that they never made that effort. In fact, a lot of times they would block a lot of that effort, which I thought was silly. I was like, you want to expand your base. You get what I'm saying?
Well, I think the problem here is, like, I try to talk to plenty of people who disagree with me, who share my same skin color. And one thing that I realize so often is liberal policies do not work for Black people. They don't. For the longest, Black people been voting for Democrats. And yet we're still here in 2021. People still saying the system is racist, still saying that there's no justice. The Republicans push back against the whole, what do you call it? Social welfare programs and things of that sort. And people say, you're racist. You don't want to help uplift Black people, affirmative action and things of that sort. But we know affirmative action doesn't necessarily really help Black people. It doesn't. Single motherhood.
It creates problems. I mean, you can, Thomas Sowell, obviously, he'll tell you exactly how affirmative action destroys the Black students that they try to help. They get into these college, and this was before, what was that, preferred selection? What do they call it? Where you can now, through affirmative action, you could decide on which college you're going to go to, so you don't end up in an Ivy League college where you're not even going to be able to keep up with the rest of the class. I mean, affirmative action, just a lot of, and Thomas Sowell wrote about how most of the students were on the dean's list, and not for a good reason, because they were failing their classes because they simply could not keep up with the curriculum.
Okay.
And it created this disparity.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but let me ask both of you guys a question. Let's say I give you those talking points. If I was to ask you realistically, if you think of most racist people that are actually racist in this country, which political party do they tend to lean on?
Oh, absolutely Republican.
Right.
Absolutely
So,
Democrat.
huh?
Absolutely
Well,
Democrat.
it depends on who we're talking about.
Democrat. No.
Yeah.
Because
Most racist people are most racist people in this country are part of the Republican Party. They're
not
ultimately
anymore.
racist.
Javier's
Javier's
Not true.
absolutely right, and so I am, and so am I.
Listen, what
Not
I say.
anymore.
This is the issue that I find, and I love the fact that Democrats have been able to do this. I swear to you, I think it's genius. They have just been able to avoid this label. They are more racist than the Republicans are, and it gets passed off because it's a positive form of racism. They are the party who tells Black people that you cannot get where you need to get in life unless we give you a handout.
That's not
They
true.
don't have the same expectations for Black people.
That's not true.
They don't treat Black people as individuals. They treat them as a collective group.
That's
In
not
all of
true
their
either.
policies, You
That's
saying that the
absolutely not true. Show me the
affirmative
evidence for
action,
that.
by its definition, is lowering the standards for blacks. By its definition, it is saying because of your skin color, therefore you should somehow get special treatment in order to get into a certain college.
No, that's not what
That's
it was for.
racist.
That's not what it was for. You're mischaracterizing the argument. It's not, that's not what affirmative action was for. Affirmative action was saying that there was privileges that were white people were getting that black people were not getting. And to equalize that field, that's what they had to do in order to do that. Because how were you
Man.
going to stop racist people from excluding black people?
Let me ask you a question, Ben. What is the definition of racism?
It's someone who thinks that their race is actually superior to others and that inflict harm to other people because of that.
Okay. Now
Hold on a second. And I hate to interrupt because you're talking about affirmative. I was under the impression that the reason why we had affirmative action was because black students weren't scoring high enough on the tests to get into these colleges.
No, affirmative action was created because white people had privileges and were excluding people in ways that didn't allow certain people into educational systems. If you look at the history,
what you're talking about is what you're saying is there were white people who purposely made it their job to exclude black students from getting into the college, no matter what.
absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Yes. There's a
How
100%
naive
evidence for that.
is it to
No, yeah,
deny that happens?
Yeah, I'm
Robert,
not saying that
go-
doesn't happen.
Robert,
But I
I'm
mean,
saying,
I'm not denying that doesn't happen either, but that is that what affirmative action was created for? Specifically that reason.
Of course.
It had
Yes.
nothing to do with them not being able to score high enough on the test to get into the colleges.
no,
No.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you a question. Which party is the party that says that a person's skin color matters when it comes to who we put in office? Which party openly says that?
You mean now or historically?
Right now. I'm talking right now. Which party says that a person's
yeah.
skin color matters when we
Now,
select
the
who should
Democrats
represent?
are more likely to say something of the extent that they believe diversity belongs into the white, that it's not just white people that belong in there, that there's different types of people that also belong in there. Not that you have
So-
to be black to be the president or whatever, or
Not-
mixed in.
Not saying you have to be, but
Right. So it's
It's-
just saying
it's-
that it should be expanded to not just a certain group of people.
what they're saying is we want equal representation. What they're saying is we want people who share a certain skin color to hold certain positions in order to represent the country. You're judging a person's ability to govern based on their skin color. That's a us versus them. That's a separation.
But
You're
what's
treating
the,
black people like they're different.
what's the alternative if you don't use affirmative action and if you don't try to have diversity within our political representation? What's the alternative that occurs if you don't push that?
Treat every person as an individual.
But
And a
people don't
person-
do
But
that.
what would happen? What would happen if we
Yeah.
did that in a country historically infected with systemic racism? Do you think
Oh.
that black people or women
Yes.
or
Yes. I
other
really do.
minorities at least would
I
be
really-
equally
Yeah, people
given
like,
opportunity?
I would never like to pretend like black people weren't doing amazing things even when the racism and the slavery was going on. I mean, Frederick Douglass. I mean, you got so many great black people who did amazing things even while they were being oppressed. I'm not under this impression that the only way for black people to succeed is if they are allowed to. I really don't believe that. And the Jews,
The only way for
the
anyone to
Irish-
succeed is if they're allowed to, of course.
Exactly.
Javier.
Yeah.
No,
Because
That applies to
not.
whatever color you are.
yeah, anywhere in the world it's that way. Whoever the person is that's in control that doesn't allow someone else in any category of any even class, that someone doesn't allow someone to do that creates an oppression. And if you don't allow that, that's not equal anything. That's not equal
This-
opportunity. That's
see,
nothing.
you're missing. Look, this is what I'm saying. When I said treat every person as an individual, I'm not just talking about the Democrats. I'm
That
talking
doesn't
about
work.
every single person in this country, even the white racist. The reason they are racist is because they're treating people based on their skin color differently, and they're seeing them differently and thinking that they're inferior. The problem
Right.
there is thinking a person's skin color affects their ability to do anything, affects their ability to make decisions, affect
Okay.
their ability to be good at something. That's racism.
Javier, you're conflating two things. You're saying here's what everyone should do, and here's how we should pass legislation. Those are two different things. So if you say everybody should treat each other equal. Let's do an example. Everybody should not be violent. Okay, let's pass legislation making people not be violent because people are naturally violent. When you say, I don't want government telling me that, we should treat them like individuals. No, we should treat people like they're freaking savages because that's what we are without the system of
No.
legislation.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this. For example, they say they want to make policies to help low income blacks, right? Let's say that. I say we don't need a policy to help low income blacks. You know what we need? A policy that helps low income individuals. And that includes every black person who falls in that category of low income. But you know what it also does? It includes whites, Hispanics, Chinese. It doesn't matter. If you are low income, we want to help you. Why should we separate a certain color from people who are low income? Low income people come in different colors. Should we not be helping them as well?
But two things can be true at one time.
But you don't have to
you can
use a
have that, but
racist
it doesn't mean that you're
language.
separating somebody, because there's a difference between a white person not having income and a generation, a group of people who have not had it at all. This is why I don't like that argument people make. Well, what about the Asians? They seem to be okay. Well, the Asians also came from a background where they had wealth. They had wealth from China. They had wealth from Japan.
But
They were able to bring that over here
that's
and
not-
with the Jews.
That's not
But
the argument that
Black
I'm making.
people have
What I'm
not
saying
had
is-
that.
What I'm saying is, if you are low income, you get the help. That means every black person who's living in low income, doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter what the generational wealth is. If you fall in that category of low income, let's help them. Guess what will happen? They're still gonna get the help without all the race attached to it. What's wrong with that?
I mean, that might be effective. I don't know. That's
When-
not the
the
method
moment-
that
The
they're
moment you
using
start
right
to,
now. But
it is crazy. The moment you start to invoke race into it, what you're intentionally doing is you're creating division, because there are going to be low income white people who feel as if they're being left out, and they're going to resent that. You don't cure racism with more racism. You don't
But
do
that's
it.
not racism.
It is. It's
You're
positive
defining
racism.
racism as something completely different. That your racism is a superiority complex over another race based off ignorant ideology. When you're trying to help a group of people, that's not racism. And I don't
Okay.
understand why that term's
How
even
is
being used.
how is this not a superior complex when you say that the only way for this person to get somewhere is if I help them? That means that you are in a position that is superior to them and they need your help. That's a white savior complex. That's been around for the longest. It's a reason that they call it a white savior complex, because they believe, and black people came up with this term, they believe that the white people who were trying to help them felt as if they could not do it on their own.
Because
it-
sometimes you can't do it on your own. Sometimes you
And that
can't pull yourself
includes-
up by bootstraps you don't have.
I understand
Any
that.
class society anywhere in the world that's had an oppressive group, it can't just pull themselves up by their own bootstraps
That's
unless
not-
there's actually someone to help them. Even
I'm
in
not-
war, it happens that if you don't have the resources against it, like a major army, I don't care how good of a fighter you are, you're not going to win the war. You need help from other people. That's okay. It's not a bad thing.
I'm
Sometimes
100
that's the way it's been since the beginning of time, bro.
I'm 100% for help, but what I am not for is framing that help in the form of a race issue or a gender
Okay.
issue.
But you are framing it that way.
No, I'm
You're the
not.
one framing it.
I'm
as
telling you,
being
that's what the
this
Democrats are doing.
nefarious thing that's separating people and doing whatever. That's not how
That's
the
what
rest
the
of us are
Democrats are
reframing it.
doing. That's what the Democrats are doing.
No,
That's
they're
what-
not. That's not what they're doing. That's how you're framing it. That's what
Every
I'm trying to get you to
time-
understand.
Every time I turn
You're
on the news,
framing it as if there's this separation racist thing and some nefarious thing that they're doing to like divide the country. No, I'm sure Democrats, when they sit down and make these laws, they're not saying, you know, this is how we can separate the country and exclude these people.
I never
and do
said
whatever.
that. I never said that. I never said it was nefarious.
But you're
I said,
framing.
what? No, I said it's called positive racism, and I'm coining that term because they're being racist to try to help black people. That's what
They're
they're
not
doing. I
being
don't think it's
racist.
nefarious.
it's not positive racism. You're referring to identity politics, of course.
Yeah.
And this might be where Ben and I might disagree a little bit. Is I would agree with you that of course the Democrats are doing that. It works for them. They're going to do whatever they have to do to get votes. But the issue that positive racism would be like saying you have a big dick because you're black. That's positive. Chinese
What-
people
what
are
I'm
good at
saying
math.
is,
That's positive racism. That's
What I'm
not
saying
identity
is
politics.
it's okay to be racist as long as I'm doing it to help you. That's why I call it positive racism. And it's seen differently than negative racism is what I'm actively trying to hurt you
Okay.
because of your race.
But compare this to other areas where there's one group, and we can exclude race if we look at it with this perspective. There's a group that has been historically disenfranchised within a community, right? So we can compare um, Irish and English, or which I get, that's some different races, but it's not as obvious as black and white, right? Hong Kong and China, South Korea, before the Korean War. You could do this a lot with a lot of different countries. South America is full of these examples, right? Once you recognize this one group, whatever they are, let's ignore the color of skin, this one group that looks the same as us has been treated badly throughout history, and they don't have as many opportunities. The way that we're currently trying to solve the problem is to say, let's now make changes in legislation so that these people will no longer be following the same path that we put them in. We, as those in power, whether it's not necessarily black or white, but just whoever the privileged group within a society, we as those in power have been treating these people badly, and they haven't had as much opportunity. So they are disproportionately affected by the society that we created, which is okay. Of course, you're going to create it in favor of your group. I'm not saying necessarily like all these people are bad or something, but if we're continuing with that process in America, that's defined as white supremacy. So the goal is to try to help people that have been disproportionately affected. Maybe your method of just focusing on finance and the economics and people who are lower income, maybe that would be effective. But I don't think that's all you're saying. I think you're actually saying that this is something special, the
It's
black
harmful.
and white divide.
It's harmful.
I'm
not saying that's
represented in all sorts of cultures.
I'm not saying that it's intentional. I'm not saying that the Democrats are nefarious or they're evil or they're doing this to try to sow deceit. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is they have a program, and their program is affected. It's being implemented a certain way. I don't see it's working. It's not working.
Well, I'd like to put my 2 cents in on this. I'm sorry, but you can't, and I'll go right to the program idea. The thing that you can't do, or that you ought not to, is to have somebody put in a position based on their skin color, and when that position demands a higher level of merit or education, what are you going to do? How are you going to address a problem of somebody that's simply unqualified for a position, other than the fact that their skin color happens to be the right tint? I mean, this is going to, and the Democrats push this shit all the time. Frankly, I mean, Joe Biden's choice for Kamala Harris, Kamala MIA, missing in action Harris. I mean, this is a perfect example of, hey, you know what? Okay, so she was a prosecutor and all this stuff, but I mean, you heard the history that she had. She was physically responsible for the incarceration of mostly Black people. And for longer periods of time, she represented everything that the Black community fights against. But Joe Biden's like, oh, well, she's a woman of color. And you know what? So was Tulsi Gabbard.
Gabbard.
Gabbard. I mean, it was like, but
they didn't want Tulsi Gabbard.
Forget Tulsi because she's into bipartisanship. But I get it. But my point remains, though. I mean, you can't. I mean, this idea of we're going to lower standards, or we're just going to throw standards out the window because
that
we want to be able to diversity.
That you're right. You're right. That represents exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Joe Biden said, "I'm going to pick a woman of color." Even if you was going to pick a woman of color, why would you fucking say that? Right.
Exactly.
Especially being a politician, you should know better. Like strategically.
I agree with Jason's point of the hypocrisy of it. We're pro Black Lives Matter, but the guy that we allow within the DNC to be president is the guy that sponsored the '94 crime bill, and his vice president is a fucking cop. You know what I mean? Like it's complete hypocrisy. But I don't know that it's necessarily bad to say we want to have a woman of color. I get that they overdo that.
See, I wouldn't. I didn't have a problem with Obama being president because I mean, to me, I mean, the man. I voted for the man. I mean, what I don't want to see is our country lower its standards or for people simply based on the color of their skin, because you want to, that's fucking racism right there, buddy. That's racism. No matter how you try to paint it, polish that fucking turd, it's racist.
But
Yeah.
are we really lowering our standards because Kamala Harris is the vice president?
Well, no,
No,
that was just an example.
think so.
But I to be honest, to be honest, I mean, this is what the Democratic Party is trying to do.
Well, but it's not. And again, it's a reframing. That's not their goal. The goal is to at least give the opportunity. You can't make somebody succeed just because you give someone opportunity.
Yeah,
That's
but
outcome. The whole thing
but,
is to
bro,
give
they
people
have the
quality of
opportunity.
opportunity, not outcome. The outcome, look, you can lead a fish or a horse to water, doesn't mean they're going to drink it. So the
Of
reality
course
is
not.
that when there have been barriers that have been in the way, giving someone at that point, it's going to be their hard work and ethic that either makes them fail or succeed at that point. So, but I do get the argument when you're saying, look, it shouldn't just be like, for example, if me and Javier had the exact same equal skills and they picked him because he's black and not the white, yeah, I would feel
And that's
disenfranchised.
exactly what they
But that's
would do.
that's what's
But-
happening.
And guess
but-
what? It creates
But
more.
if I had
racism.
more advantages in a society, doesn't he at least have a right to fucking have some sort of, like, if we were equal, but I was getting picked more and more and more than him, what do you do about that?
If you're getting picked more and more than me based
Even
on
though
your
we're
own
equal.
merit, oh, okay. If you're getting picked because you're white, that's also screwed up.
Yeah,
And I would agree
so
with
how
you.
do you
Fix
fight that?
You
Okay,
Because that's
fix
what it's
that,
been for
Javier.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's,
been
that's
that.
like saying we need better homes. We
You
need to
can't-
improve the
you
homes in
can't-
America. Not,
But
you know,
here's
like,
the
you can't
Robert. Here's the
legislate
thing: you
people to
can't
be good.
legislate racism away either.
You
can't
can
make people-
legislate the effects of racism away.
Yeah, you can.
You really think so?
haven't we done that? Haven't
No.
we legislated away the effects of racism?
No,
I
not
mean,
really.
We've made some progress.
Yeah.
Oh,
Be-
so
and
we made
what
we
the
made
people
some
that made that-
progress.
The people that made
And
that progress
and when
were
and,
liberals.
and when is America more racist than it ever was now?
No, of course
Compared
not.
compared to
Not that
when?
whatever was. No.
Compared to when?
1800s.
So
Yeah, when we had slavery.
Yeah.
That's a good.
compared to when? Yeah, it's definitely not as racist as it
we're
was
getting
back
better.
then. It's
Yeah.
definitely not as racist as it was in
Oh,
the 50s.
And speaking of history, I want to make a point to Javier. That one threw me. What you made about 30 minutes ago, the point you made where you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to straw man you, but if I recall correctly, you said black people used to be conservative.
Used to vote
And-
Republican. Yeah,
And see,
yeah.
flip-flopping conservative and Republican.
No, I still think to this day that black people are more conservative when their values than they are liberal, and
Okay.
that it was a time and period where black people majority voted for Republicans over Democrats.
Okay,
But that
fine.
changed.
I understand that that's a fact, and I agree with you that that's a fact about Republicans, Democrats, but it took me a second. You're referring to pre-Jim Crow, pre-Lyndon Johnson, pre-Goldwater. Back then, the conservatives were Democrats and
Exactly.
the liberals were Republicans.
You're talking about when the party switched in the Great Southern
Yes.
Strategy.
Yeah,
Look,
that's.
I'm not-
I'm glad you caught that, Robert, because I
No,
was going to say
no.
the same thing.
I'm not overlooking that. What I'm saying is, if you look at the value system that conservatives seem to tout, if you lined it up with what black people on average actually believe, most of them more aligned with conservative ideology than they do liberal ideology. And I spend a lot of time
Wait.
amongst black people. Trust me.
Yeah,
But-
but
Hey,
I was,
I was-
Javier, and
I was born and raised in
don't hear
Brooklyn.
them
I
saying
know
what you're
too, man.
saying.
It's-
Like most black people I know don't say what you're saying. I
Liberal
mean, religious
policies-
wise, yeah, but most
And
of the other
most
stuff-
black people are religious
But-
as hell.
But
Right,
once
that's what
again,
I'm saying.
you're,
Other than
you're
religious,
conflating.
everything else they don't agree with.
The only
Yeah.
thing that keeps the Democrats winning when it comes to the black community is the racism narrative. If you got rid of the racism narrative, I guarantee you that black people wouldn't be voting for Democrats in the numbers that they are. And I know for a fact because I know so many black. No, I'm not even going to use an anecdotal situation. What I'm saying is, if you think about it, why is it so important that the Democrats keep the racism narrative going? That's their bread and butter. It's their bread and butter. It simply
we agree.
is.
We agree on that point, but maybe you're missing the chicken for the egg scenario where you're saying the only reason that black people are voting Democrat is because of racism. Have you considered that maybe the only reason that black people aren't voting conservative is because of racism?
No, I think that the Democrats have done a great job at painting the Republican Party as a party full of bunch of racists.
But
Hey,
racism was the reason for
Javier,
the shift.
Okay, Jason, Javier, here's the thing I think that conservatives don't understand. And I don't know, this is because I agree with you that if racism didn't exist, you may find more people that may want less taxes or less government, whatever conservative values are. And that's fine. I think you missed the point that there's a lot of racism that still remains in the Republican government. And the Democrats aren't just doing that. The Republican Party has done it to itself. To blame the Democrats for what the Republicans are doing for race is never going to get more black people or more Mexicans or anyone else into the Republican Party, because they do it to themselves. They don't just sit around randomly being like, oh, I just believe Democrats. They don't do that. They are treated a certain way. They observe it every day. They're open about saying that. And until the Republican Party can do that, they will never get those votes.
I mean, Donald Trump got more black votes than any other president ever. The narrative is shifting. It is definitely shifting. And I'll ask this question. And I'll ask this question simply. If the Democrats are as what you say they are, and the Republicans are what they say they are, what does that say about black people who do currently vote Republican or consider themselves conservative? Are they enabling racists? Are they voting against their own interests?
They're compartmentalizing is what they're doing. They're ignoring this aspect of it, and they can still have conservative values. Again, if more conservatives, including yourself, called out the racist stuff, then you can focus on the taxes, the less government, the gun. Because who's to say that, yes, if a black person wants to have lower taxes, there's nothing wrong with that. I may disagree, but I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with having conservative values, but you got to get rid of this other part. Because what if there are more people that are like, you know what, maybe I do believe in less government. This is why it bothers me that the Republican Party doesn't get. I'm like, you guys really need to knock these racists out of your party, because there may people that may agree with your values.
Let me ask you a question.
And you're excluding them from the party because of race.
Can you give me a policy that the Republican Party is currently pushing or has pushed in the last few years that is openly racist and trying to like mistreat black people because they're black?
Voting rights. They attack all voting rights, especially within black neighborhoods, redistricting, gerrymandering.
That has nothing to do with race.
That
has nothing to do with race.
Yes, it does.
No, it has
yes,
to do
it does.
It has to do with getting the right votes.
No.
I guarantee
because
you,
why is it all
people,
no. This is evidence based. Why is it all black neighborhoods that they're redlining when they're doing it?
Black people majority vote for Democrats. It's a vote thing. It's not a race thing. If they were,
then Javier, if it was so open to the Republican Party, they wouldn't have to make gerrymander. They'd just be like, vote for us, right?
Let me ask you a question, Ben. Ben, if most black people voted for the Republican Party, do you think they would be doing that?
No, but they're not going to vote
it's
for
the
you
votes.
because of the racism. That's what we're trying to get you to. This is the one thing Republicans don't understand about it. They're literally gerrymandering around it. They've been open about gerrymandering around it.
Because
they know that if they knock out the black vote, the Democrats can't win. They purposely block votes to do that. This is well known, Javier, for years.
But what I'm telling you,
bro, this isn't
racism
yesterday.
is not the motivation. It's isolating the votes that won't help them. That's what it's about. It just so happens.
Javier, dude, listen to what you're saying here. There has been clear evidence that Republicans in districts have jeopardized the black vote, have gerrymandered, have manipulated all the way around the black vote to not get them to vote for Democrats.
Of course.
That's racist shit.
That's because they're not voting for them. It's not due to their race.
Hold on, Javier, did you just admit that Republicans are trying to discriminate against black people?
No, that's not what I said.
Yes, you did. You just did.
That's not what I said.
Hold on.
Look.
Well, Ben, can you ask, I'm sorry, I know I'm not the host. I can't help but.
No, go ahead, man. You're good.
But Ben, can you ask him that same question again? Because I swear to God, he just said, yes, they are, but they're not doing it for racism, but they are doing it. I think that's what he said.
Gerrymandering, and they're carving up certain in black communities in order to isolate their vote so they can't vote for Democrats. That's what he said.
Right.
I said, yes, they are.
Wow.
But not because they're black. My whole argument is not because they're black, it's because they're voting for the opposition.
Right.
If they were voting for Republicans, they wouldn't be doing it. So it's not a racism motivation, it's a vote motivation. That's all I'm saying. That's my point.
I not only understand, I agree with you.
Yeah.
That it's just to win votes. But you have to accept that you're saying the Republicans are specifically trying to avoid black people from voting or diminish their vote. And if you admit to that, maybe you can understand why the Conservative Party is having a hard time with black people.
It's how you frame it. I would
know.
not. I would
I
not
know.
frame it like that. I would frame
I
it
know
as-
you wouldn't frame it
But,
like
you,
that.
but that's the
course.
problem, Javier. You're framing it in a way that makes it look like it's something that it's not. Because what can be proven over and over is that most of the time they'll even say that they're doing it for that reason. They don't want the black people to vote. They don't want these things. It's been
Who
shown.
said that? I've never heard a Republican person,
Oh my God.
Republican
And
candidate come
yeah.
out and say, "I don't
Bro.
want black people to vote."
Seriously, everyone
recently.
in this audience, when you're done with this, go
right.
look online and look at YouTube videos with politicians that are actually saying it. There's documentaries made and showing detailed documentation, showing people redlining people for the black because they're fucking racist. They even said
these-
they don't want black people.
Let me
in
ask you a
their
question.
neighborhoods.
Are these
Let me ask you
videos
a
in
Black
question.
color?
people in their educational systems. This is well known, and they do it with education. They do it in all aspects of it.
I mean, don't
I'm
you
sure
guys,
you guys know this,
Ben,
right?
Don't Ben and Robert, don't you think that the Republican Party is reacting to all of this push for identity politics from the left? And they've been reacting to it so long that every time they try to battle what they're battling up against in the Democratic Party, especially I forget which state it was, but it's a state that has a very, very high Democratic voting population because it's one of those big
Mhm.
city states. Okay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the whole outcropping of the state is all Republican.
Yeah.
But year after year after year, those Republicans in that state aren't getting represented at all by the Democratic voters that are pack 'em, stack 'em, and rack 'em in the cities. And this
Right.
creates a problem. So in order to react to that oversized Democratic votes in the city for those outlying, and we're even talking farm country here, okay, which is mostly Republicans.
Yeah.
We know that they have to do this sort of, this, whatever you want, gerrymandering, right? Whatever, gerrymandering in order to have any chance of going up against these overly populated Democrat votes in these giant cities, and I mean, imagine New York, like if New York had farmland surrounding it, or all of these Republicans, they would never be represented. And
Right.
it's to the point now where you even hear, I've seen news articles where some of these outlying areas in some of these states that have constantly been voting for Democratic policies and senators and whatnot, they want to move, they want to sequester themselves from there or secede and move to a red state that's next to them. Now, what was the other thing I wanted to bring up? As far as I guess I lost my second point because you guys were
Would you-
battling pretty hard, but
Would you
I
would you
mean-
say, Jason, that you're in support of gerrymandering then?
absolutely not. I think that people should vote the way they want to vote. Like, see, I'll never understand. And this is why I don't like gerrymandering. People should be allowed to vote who they want to vote for. And if the Democrat they're voting for happens to win in that state, fine. If the Republican happens to win in that state, fine. But unfortunately, I don't see the need. I don't understand why we even have blue areas and red areas. Like, you could go and you could see all of this blocked off state stuff. I never understood that. I vote for who I want to vote for, regardless of where I'm at in America.
Say,
I've
Ben,
lived in 3 different states now, so
yeah.
I don't
Listen.
understand. Like, what does it mean if I'm in a blue area but I vote for a Republican? Does that vote not get counted? Well, that's bullshit.
Counted.
It gets counted. It just gets flooded by a sea of blue. Look,
Right.
Ben, let me ask you, and we was having this conversation. You would agree that if there was a city or an area where all of the black people in that city or area were going to vote for the Republicans, do you believe that the Republicans would still gerrymander it to a situation where those black people votes wouldn't count?
If it was all black people and they voted for Republicans, probably not. But
Okay.
it doesn't mean that they still won't, because there's still some Republicans that don't like black people and
Of
they don't
course,
want them in
of
the
course.
Republican Party.
Of course. Now, look, they're going to be racist. Of course, you can't
Right.
isolate races out of everything. What I'm saying is, I'm not really battling the fact. If you want to say that it's gerrymandering, I'm 100% with you.
Not just gerrymandering. This is what I'm getting at, Javier. Like, we're just talking about one slice of the pie.
Yeah,
here.
I'm
We're
just
talking about
trying to
people make
focus on
laws,
this.
about voting suppression rights, about who they hire. You can see pattern after pattern after pattern of this stuff.
Companies are look, okay,
Bro, you're making a lot of
trying-
excuses, bro.
I'm trying to focus on one specific issue.
I
the
get it, but
gerrymandering,
you're
right?
not seeing the forest for the trees here.
No, I am, but we trying to do a podcast, and if we just try to expand out into every single thing, we can go at it for.
I'm not trying to expand to
days.
everything. I'm trying to get you to understand the context. You don't have to you don't have to explain the whole context.
But I'm trying to use this as an example to point something out.
All right, go ahead.
The issue that I find is it's very easy to reduce everything down to racism. But when you look close at a lot of these things, there's much more going on than racism. And when you
Right.
start to reduce everything down to racism, it does a disservice to the actual problem and the root of the problem.
But I'm not reducing it to just racism.
Not you, but what I'm saying is the Democrats will say the Republicans are doing the gerrymandering stuff because they are just purely racist.
Right.
But there's more going on than that.
But
But
they
black
want the
people,
votes, like you said.
yeah, but
they're
black
not- see,
people will
again,
take
you're
that at face
framing
value.
it again, Javier. That's not why they're doing it. They're trying to say that there are some problems that are caused from racism. There's some problems that are caused by financial hardships. There's some problems that are caused by money, education, or whatever. What they're trying to say is that the ones that are caused by racism are being caused, and a lot of them are caused by the Republican Party and have been for years. For years, it's been well documented. This is not like, hidden, science or something like that. This has been well documented for years.
That's like saying the crime bill, the 94 crime bill was racist, but it wasn't intentionally racist. There was so much going on. A lot of black people supported the 94 crime bill. There were pastors, black
That's
pastors
true.
and stuff calling for this. The crime rate was
Most
through the
of
roof.
Black America supported the 94 crime.
Exactly. But now you fast forward to today, it was just racism. And that's my problem. We reduce everything down to this simple soundbite, and people take that at face value. There are black people walking around who just accept that the crime bill was just pure racism. And they vote based on that.
But Javier, when it actually comes to something that's actually racist, that's what we're trying to talk about here. Like, I get it. People could conflate things, whatever, but there's well-known things that the Republican Party has done that has actually been racist. It's not like debatable. It's like, that's what they did. That's what they do. That's what they acknowledge it for. And again, I asked you, if you ask most people in this country, which party has the most amount of racists? I'm not saying that the party is all racist. I'm saying when you ask most people in this country, a racist, are they usually Democrat or Republican? They're usually Republican. So why is that?
I don't care to defend the Republican Party, but what I
I
will
know,
say
but
is this.
Javier, do you get what I'm
I'm
saying?
about to answer your question.
The imaging of the Republican Party has done it to themselves. Why is it that most racists are Republicans?
That's a fair question.
I don't agree that most racists are the Republican Party.
But well, then you're very few. You're the rare exception to that.
I
because-
know, and sometimes it's okay to be the minority. Sometimes,
Right,
it's
but
okay,
it doesn't mean that
but
because you're the minority that you're
that I'm
correct
right
about that.
I agree. I'm
Most
100% with
racists
you.
are in the Republican Party. That's a
Javier, racism is conservative.
How
And
so?
in the same way that we started this podcast by discussing, at least it was my opinion, I don't know if Ben agreed, I don't think he did, but that a lot of our values are conservative values, even if we're liberals. We just don't like to admit it because we like to play tribalism and teams and whatever. But conservatism or racism is conservative because it's simple. It came from before. It's liberal ideology that's anti-racist. So the part of you that isn't racist, that's a liberal side of you, Javier.
Well, here's the thing. When I say conservative, I adhere to a certain conservative philosophical position on certain things. And that means that I believe every human being has inherent value. I don't see where racism fits into that. I believe in the individual over the collective. I believe that's a conservative value. I don't see where racism fits into that. If you want to argue that most conservatives throughout history have been racist, I agree with you. But I wouldn't call that conservatism. I would call that racist using a conservative label. Just like there are Christians who vastly disagree on their interpretation of a specific doctrine.
Yeah.
Now, look, I'm not saying that conservatives haven't historically been racist. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that there aren't racists in the Republican Party. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is when I look at both parties today, I ask myself, which one do I see actually making policies and stuff based on people's skin color? And will tell you to your face, we're doing this for this specific group because of their skin color. It's
That's not
overwhelmingly
racism, though.
the Democrats.
But that's not you're framing it as racism, and it's not. Just because you
am
do something
framing it as
for a race
racism.
doesn't make it racism.
That's discrimination.
No, it's not. They're
What
not.
was-
No, it's not. That is
That's not.
that's
I
what I'm
didn't say
trying
it
to
was
get at.
exclusion. I said it's discrimination.
Okay,
That's-
so define racism. You define racism then.
okay, treating or looking at any individual and judging them based on their skin color, or treating them differently based on
Right.
their skin color.
Okay. Treating them differently based on their skin color, where Ben was defining it as believing that one race is superior over another. So you guys have different definitions.
Yeah.
Even if his definition is right, that doesn't bother me. A person could think they're superior to me for many reasons and still not discriminate against me. What I'm worried about is the people making policies and telling people that they're doing something based on my skin color. That's what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about whether you think you're superior than me.
But don't you find that when the Republicans do that, doesn't that bother you when they do that because you're black? They're like, oh,
Of course.
we're not going to allow this and do this. And that, so again, but you didn't answer my question. What I'm asking is, why is it that the majority of racist people in this country are Republican? Why is that? What
I'm
is it?
telling you, I don't agree with you.
But that's the thing is that you're agreeing to something that's you have
Because
some
your
other
definition of racism is different than mine.
Right. But I would say, Javier, more people would agree with my definition.
Of
and
course
what
they
I
would.
see than they would you.
Of course they would.
Right?
Doesn't,
Is that a true
doesn't
statement?
bother me at all. Yes.
Okay.
Doesn't
So
bother
the
me at all.
reality, but that's what I'm trying to get at. When you look at it from the reality of actual hateful, racist people.
You're talking about people's opinions. I'm talking about
But
Yeah.
Javier, come on.
Real
we gotta have
world
some real we got to
implications.
agree on some facts somewhere here because we're
Yeah,
not
we
going to get
do.
anywhere with this conversation.
Would you
But
agree
then-
that if a person discriminates against me because of my race, that would be racism? Would you agree to that?
If they felt they were superior to you, yes, and did it, yes.
And
And they were
that's not
hateful
what I
to
asked
you
you.
in doing that and excluding it, yes.
No, that's not what I asked you. If a person
You
discriminates
asked me. I gave you
against me
exactly what I said.
because of my skin color, is that racist to you?
If
So-
based off of the definition I just gave you, yes.
Okay, so if somebody doesn't let me in a restaurant because I'm black, that's racism, right?
Yes.
That's discrimination based on racism.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
And
if
what I
somebody-
think, go ahead, sorry.
okay, if somebody gives me a position in a company over you, and we are equal, or even if you're better than me because I'm black, is that not discrimination?
No, because the discrimination originally was intended for you, and it's giving you an opportunity that I have too.
Robert, I'm pretty sure you see exactly what I'm saying here.
No, you
I
think
do.
you understand what you're saying, Javier, but you don't get what you don't get what I'm saying.
I
You are
think
making a
that-
claim that you said that because you get a job as a black man over me, that's discrimination against me. But normally in society, I would get that job before you would. It's
And
actually
that's
giving you the same
discrimination as
opportunity so
well.
we can both compete in it.
Two things can be true at the same
No,
time.
yeah.
Yes, but it wasn't intended to be racist. It wasn't intended to discriminate against me. Whereas if I'm a business owner and I say you can't come in, I was intended to discriminate against you. I didn't want you in my store because you were black. That job
But
offer
I
wasn't
want you in
intended
my
to be
store because
discriminatory
you're
towards
black.
me. It wasn't a hateful thing towards me.
Can they both be right, Jason? I'm thinking they're actually,
Yeah,
it's
both
just,
can be
well,
true.
I think Javier is talking about discrimination. Ben's talking about racism. And
Well,
And I think
the
they're both
problem is
potentially correct.
the problem is they're both right, but there's problems with both of them. And unfortunately, like for Ben, I go back to that point of someone is getting hired based on the color of their skin. And someone's not getting hired based
the
on
color of their skin.
based on the color of their skin.
Right. But the motivations
so-
are different.
But
The intentions
well,
are different.
regardless of what the motivations are, you're still going to create a disparity
Yes.
eventually.
But intentions matter.
No, well, yes, intentions
absolutely
matter.
You know what matters
You
more
know
than
what?
intentions? Results.
Welfare was
No.
good intentioned, and
No.
look what it did. And
Results
look what it
matter
did. It
more than
destroyed the
inten-
black
intention.
family.
No, okay. So wait a minute. So if the intentions don't really matter, then what's the difference between
no,
said it didn't
affirmative
matter.
action and a hate crime?
I didn't
Listen,
say it didn't matter. I said results matter more.
No, tell me
than
what the
intention.
difference is between affirmative action and a hate crime.
Affirmative action and hate crime, they're two different. That's apples and oranges.
Why?
Affirmative action,
Yeah.
because one is a educational situation, and one is something that's what was the other one you brought up? You said affirmative action, and what else?
A hate crime.
And a hate crime. One is a violent act or doing something to harm somebody. The other one
Based
is
off of what?
based on their race.
Right.
Yeah. See, your intentions don't change the results. If you came and gave me a hug, right? and you ended up knocking me over a bridge and killing me, and I fell to my death. You think I give a damn what your intentions was? The result was I died.
No, but
Right.
the intentions have to matter because it's the same when you make a law. If the intention is X, okay, and you're making a logical law against something, okay, like so for example, I can make laws against speeding. My intention is to stop actual speeders and death, right?
Yeah.
But if I made that same law, against speeding, just so I can pull over people to find drugs in their car, that intention is completely different. That's a
I
completely
agree.
different intention
Ho-
for creating the
hold-
law.
hold
So
on,
there's a
hold
different intention between affirmative action and then a business owner telling a black person they can't come into a restaurant.
Have anybody ever heard
Hold
this?
crime.
Hold on.
Hate
hold
crime
on.
is different with
Let's-
its intentions versus an
look,
affirmative action.
Of course, the hate crime is different in intention, but unfortunately, okay, you still have a result, okay, from affirmative action that does that, and it's documented. You know this, we all know this. It's documented that students were failing out of
yeah.
colleges because of it.
Where they
And
would have
what
succeeded
does that
somewhere
do?
else.
Exactly, where they would have succeeded somewhere else. And you know this is true because that's why they have the preferred location or whatever the fuck it's called. I can't remember. I'm sorry. But there's a problem just as much with the hate crime as there is with the good, regardless of whether the intention is good or not, with a legislation that's enacted such as affirmative action that still has a negative result.
Right,
that
but the,
can't
but the
be
intentions
fixed.
of the affirmative action,
But
regardless
whatever,
of the result,
but
are not
Ben,
the same as the
numbers
intentions of somebody
the
else.
numbers,
We
the
have to
numbers
agree
don't
on
lie.
that. We have to agree on that because
yeah,
you're,
of
intentions
course.
matter.
now you're
Ben.
conflating two different things.
Ben,
No,
intentions
it-
matter.
the-
You guys
the
are literally,
intentions
you
matter,
literally,
but-
okay, you guys literally
But I
can't
want you to
tell me that
understand
the,
something.
that
I
the
want you to
action of
understand
affirmative
something.
action is the same as a business owner telling a black person you can't eat at a restaurant. You can't, no logical person could come to that conclusion. There's no way.
I didn't say they were the same, man. Look, intentions matter, Ben. I am 100% with
Yeah,
you.
right.
Intentions matter.
So
What I
here's the
said
other
is
question then. Here's
Results
the other
matter
question.
more.
Who's more likely to involve themselves in a hate crime? A Republican or a Democrat?
A
Oh,
Democrat.
these days a Democrat.
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example.
Most hate crimes
What
come
group?
from white terrorists.
No, it doesn't.
Yes,
what
it
group-
does.
All right. What
Yes,
group attacks?
The
what
biggest
group-
threat that the FBI says right now is white racist terrorism. That is the
Well, they-
biggest threat in the United
Sure.
States.
Sure.
Not necessarily,
No,
not necessarily the biggest threat, maybe, but they certainly have had the most incidents for sure.
For
let me ask you-
internal
Let
threats.
me ask you a question, Ben.
White
Right.
racist
and not
groups
the-
are the largest internal threat in the United States.
All right. Yeah.
Those
All
are
right,
mainly
based on-
Republicans.
Based
Let
on
me ask
number
you-
of incidents, but not based on body count.
Yeah. Let me
The
ask you a
Muslims
question.
still hold body
Let
count.
me, yeah.
But-
let me
but-
let me ask Ben the
but Javier,
question.
Wait.
Go
Javier, you
ahead.
didn't answer
Go
my
ahead,
question.
Answer-
So why
answer
is it
his
that
question.
those aren't Democrats doing that? Those are Republicans.
I answered your
Again,
question.
hate crimes
I
are
said
more likely to be
Democrats.
carried out by Republicans.
Democrats. Let me explain something.
Okay, dude, you can just keep throwing Democrats all you want. That doesn't help your argument.
I don't care about the Republicans. I don't care about the Democrats.
Okay,
What I care about is what's
do you
true.
care about the facts?
Yes.
Okay,
And
so
listen,
you didn't answer my question. Why is it that these hate groups are more Republicans than Democrats?
okay,
Answer
I-
the question.
I am trying to answer the question. I don't agree with you. That's my answer. And the
Well,
reason
then
I
you
don't agree
the
with you,
facts.
no, because listen to what I'm
You
telling
don't agree with the facts.
It's how
Javier.
you classify. It's how you classify it.
You're reframing.
Black. Which group is more likely to attack Asians? What race?
I think blacks. I'm not
Blacks.
positive on that.
What-
That's what
Is black people.
I think.
What group is more likely to attack Jews?
Whites.
Whites.
It's blacks.
No, it's
Really?
whites.
Fact check me. Blacks
You
are very
fact check
it.
anti-Semitic. You got
Most
the
hate
black
crimes
the
now are done by
black
white
Hebrew
fucking people
Israelites.
against Jews.
You got the Muslims, the Nation of Islam, the black Hebrew Israelite. There's a lot of anti-Semitic sentiment in the black community. It's a lot. And it
Yeah,
goes
but
overlooked and it
Javier,
doesn't
you
go
can't
reported.
provide numbers to show that there's
Yes,
more
I
hate
can.
crimes with
Like I said,
minorities than you
fact check
can the
me.
white people.
Fact check me.
But I already have.
Dude,
I
that
already
is.
have.
I mean, maybe you disagree with that stat, but that is a FBI stat.
Yes.
Fact check me.
I mean,
Dude,
They-
Javier,
they
look at the
don't-
facts, bro. I don't think
they
you know what
do-
you're saying right now.
No.
I don't think you understand that most hate crimes that are on the rise are coming from right nationalists. The majority of hate crimes are coming from white nationalist groups.
This
They're
is the
like on a
funny thing.
huge FBI threat in this
This is
country.
I bet they are. They
They are.
Listen, when the whole Stop Asian Hate came about, they said that Donald Trump had started this whole Asian hate thing because of the coronavirus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
the most people who were going out attacking Asians were black people. They never framed it that way. They only blamed white supremacists for doing it.
They really
That's
focused
the-
on that one
Is-
white kid that went to that
exactly.
massage parlor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They completely ignored all the black crimes that was going on against
Okay.
Asians. See,
Javier,
it
the
is
statistics have
for the
shown
life
that
of me.
more nationalist right-wing people have been violent in hate crimes than any other group.
At least in the last 20 years.
Okay, let's say that's the case.
It is the case.
They've been proven to be Republicans.
Yes, the right-wing
right.
nationalist fucking Republicans.
All right, you'll have to send me that stat, and I will. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm 100% wrong. But what I do know is, for the life of me, when black people go out and commit certain crimes, it just doesn't get talked about in the media and the news.
Sure, it
brushed
does.
under the
It's
rug.
always on the news. I always see black people committing crimes in the news.
I'm talking about hate
I'm
crimes.
sorry. Look, I'm sorry, but
But are they hate crimes or are they crimes of opportunity?
White
No, they
nationalists,
specifically are
racists don't
hate crimes.
represent most of the Republicans in this country.
I'm not saying that. What I am
Right.
saying is why do most race? This is what I always try to say. I don't believe all Republicans are racist. I don't believe all conservatives are racist. But why
Right.
is it that most racists are conservative? Why are most hate groups right
Because
wing?
Ben, you don't
Why are most
accept the
terrorist
fact
groups right wing in every
don't-
country?
you don't accept the fact that the Democrats are racist as hell.
Because
You just don't agree with the definition of it.
Because they're not. You frame it to be that way, and you can reframe it all you want, Javier, but it doesn't make it any more true.
Okay, well,
I'm basing myself off of
party?
evidence and facts. Where are you basing your evidence from?
I'm basing my evidence on facts,
Where?
statistics,
From where?
Pew Research Center. Like
No.
For the life
no,
of
you're
me.
not. No, you're
All
not. I'll
and
call you
Ben,
out on it right now.
we
that
had,
you're not.
okay, Ben, we had this
I
conversation
call
about
bullshit that you
we
are not.
we had this conversation about abortion at one point, and you told me that we didn't have a population crisis, that we had too many people in this
We
country.
don't have a population
and I
crisis.
provided you with the information.
That wasn't
after
a
the fact.
population
I sent
crisis.
you multiple links on
That's
that.
not
the
a
fact that we are not
population crisis.
producing
I
enough
read every
children
single
in
one,
this country.
Javier. That's not a population crisis.
Robert, I'm gonna send you the same things that I sent him.
No, and I'm going to
Jason,
debate you. But
I
we're
was
talking
saying
about
the same
abortion.
things I
We're
sent him.
talking about. See, this is the problem that you do, Javier, and a lot of times that I find that conservatives do, and I don't understand what it is. You conflate one other thing that's over here, and you make it bigger than what it is, and you try to reframe it and say, "Oh, this is what the argument is."
That's not what I'm doing.
But statistically, you don't have the evidence on your side.
bro,
You just don't.
I told you we have a population crisis in America. People are
No.
not making enough babies to
No, no, we're not. No, we're
replenish the
not.
working population.
Even all those articles that you sent,
Okay.
they were not. No.
All right, and I will send it to Robert.
That is
and I will
not
send it to
true.
Jason, and I will allow them to decide for themselves if my statistics
Okay.
are
But
right.
going back to what I was actually arguing about, because we're going into a red herring here.
because you constantly
You
claim
have to admit that most terrorist groups in this country, most racist people in this country are on the ideological right conservative. Right?
What if we reframed it? Sorry to cut the question, but I'm just trying to see if maybe Javier would answer it this way. What if we said hypothetically, you don't have the stat right in front of you. I would
Yes.
agree with Ben about the stat, but
Yes.
let's just say hypothetically, if that were the case, why do you think it would be?
Why do I think it would be that case? Because it's when it comes to the right particular, it's this whole old-fashioned idea that we like the way the country is. And the reason that it's changing is because all of these different groups are coming in here trying to force it to change. That's probably where the racism is coming from. And like this is my issue. And let's say his stats are real. Let's say I grant it and it is true. Okay, if I'm wrong, I'm gonna say I'm wrong because
Right,
I care about the truth. If Ben, if you're right and you provide me that, I could be 100% wrong and I'm willing to grant it. And I'll say it on the next podcast. But here's the thing. Most of the time when black people go out and commit hate crimes against other groups, they don't consider it a hate crime. They don't even consider it a hate crime. When white, I'll give you an example. When I was in school, middle school, high school, when Black History Month came around, guess what we did? We beat up all the white kids. It was a very popular thing. Not one of those incidents was considered a hate crime.
Don't really
Not
beat
one
up
of
the
those
white
incidents
kids.
was considered a hate crime at all. It never went reported as a hate crime.
But most of those incidences don't compare to the amount of instances that are in reverse. Even if I gave you that, there's not enough of those instances compared to the amount of
You
hate
wouldn't
crimes
know
that
unless
happen.
you knew the statistics on them.
Well, they don't report every single hate crime either. There's
Of
plenty of
course
hate crimes
not.
that don't get reported.
Here's the thing, Ben. And I'm
Right?
not, look, here's the thing, Ben. I get you. You care about the stats. You care about the facts. Here's the
Yes.
thing. I'm not one to try to use stats that don't exist and try to make an argument. Oh, we don't have all of them, so therefore we don't know. I'm not
But
going to
you
do that.
just did.
But what I'm saying, no, what I'm saying is based on
Because
my
what are the
understanding.
stats on that? You just said you don't have the stats on it.
No, I said that I will send you the stats that I have. I told you that. I told you I'll get it to you.
The
About the
point I'm
Blacks
trying to make,
committing hate
Javier,
crimes.
is that when it comes to the racism that is more inclined to be on the right side, that's the reason why probably most people are not going to vote Republican. And
That's
once
fair.
you get rid of that and stand up to that part of it, people can focus on less taxes, focus on gun control or lack of gun control, whatever it is. I'm not telling people that they shouldn't be Republicans. I may disagree with you
I
about
don't care for
Republican values,
Republicans
but
either.
I agree that there should be more black people like you in the Republican Party. I think there should be, or be as a conservative, even if I
Okay.
disagree with you. But I'm trying to tell you guys, and this is what I think you guys are failing to hear what I'm saying, that without you addressing the elephant in the fucking room, no one's going to care what you have to say.
That's fine.
And that's unfortunate because I
because-
think they should listen to what you have to say to have the opportunity between two ideological differences, right? They should listen to what you're saying about your values about foreign policy.
the
or tax.
Republicans will never win this game. And the reason Republicans will never win this game is they're not too prone to promising a whole bunch of free shit. Let's just be honest.
No,
here.
the reason why the Republicans
love
will not
free
win this
shit.
game is because they don't know
Come
how to
on, man.
listen.
You call it
They
what you
think
want, but until they
the
stop
reason
promising a
why
whole
the
bunch of free
Republicans will
shit,
not win this
they don't
game
have
is
a
because they
chance.
don't listen. I'm trying to tell you from a rational
All right.
standpoint of view what you could actually do to bring more people into your party, and you're still arguing with me about it.
Look, I'm
This
not
is-
a part of the
this is what
Republican
I'm
Party.
saying.
I'm an independent. What I'm saying is the Republicans are not prone to telling people we're just going to give you everything that you need or want.
Yeah, and
They're not in the
Democrats don't do
business of doing
either.
that. They're not going to
Sorry.
win. It's
No,
never going to
that's
be
not what they
popular.
do. The Democrats just don't run around and say, "Here's free shit" for the fun of it. They just don't. I know you guys like to use that as your thing,
Alright.
but it's just not true. And you're
Okay.
framing it as being true, and that's dishonest because that's not what's going on. Because there's a lot of countries right now that actually do those things and it works fine, right? Medicare for all works fine. Education for other people works fine. Everyone wants to call it communist and pedophile, whatever bullshit.
I'm not that guy.
But the reality
saying
is that these are ideas and they work. And for some reason that bothers people. I don't know why, but if everyone's running around calling things communist or giving away free shit, then go for it. But guess what?
See, I don't
More
care
people
about that.
support those
communist-
ideas than don't.
I'll
I
give you a
don't- I
reason
don't-
why.
Period.
I'll give you
Because
a
they're good
reason why
ideas.
then. You're good. Well, I'm sorry, but your good ideas get blown out of the fucking water by the fringe left that wants pedophilia to be accepted, that wants this whatever fucking somebody's personal kink is. You know, I'm sorry.
No, it
if
doesn't.
you if you
No.
don't see that,
No, it doesn't.
then
Because
I'm
there's a lot of
sorry.
people that don't
but
agree
dude,
with
that's
that.
what the woke is.
No,
The
but here you
woke
guys
is
are.
into this
You're
identity
pulling,
politics.
you're pulling from
stuff.
this weird fringe, and you
No,
think that that's
well,
the
and what
majority
are
of the
you pulling
party.
from? You're pulling from a weird fringe too.
Jason,
Nobody,
listen to what you're
nobody
saying. You're
accept-
saying that like because
nobody
there's this
accepts-
fringe that
no-
all of a sudden everybody
no, what I'm
agrees
saying
with
is
them.
what I'm saying is no one accepts the fucking racist nationalists any more than we accept the woke fucking left. To me, they're both equally worthless. Okay.
But
I
there's
mean,
a difference
it's-
between what's going on in the Republican Party and then what's going on in the Democrat. The Democrats don't accept, or at least liberals don't accept a lot of the other fringe elements. That's why they
the-
fight it. Versus this is becoming the mainstream. The QAnon conspiracists, okay, all these whack jobs wanting to storm the Capitol. That's the norm.
No,
That's
it's
not
not.
the norm.
No, it's not. You think that's the norm?
Maybe
Majority-
Now you're
That
a
is definitely the
conspiracy theorist.
norm.
Go ahead, Robert.
That is not
Well,
the fucking norm.
You're telling
Well,
me, wait a minute. Okay, all right. I'm gonna call bullshit right here. You ready? You're telling me that all these new politicians coming into the House that
Oh,
didn't support
God.
January 6th or that don't that are trying to stop all the you don't think that's the norm? What's the norm then?
The norm, I'm sorry, but a lot of how many people have they incarcerated now?
No, no,
So
I'm
that-
asking
that
for
broke into the
politicians
Capitol.
in the House, in the Congress that supported this January 6th bullshit, encouraged that bullshit, even
I
people
don't-
within the Republican Party that encourage. Are you going to tell me that that's not the norm?
It's not the norm.
Oh, wow.
I'm telling you, it's not the norm.
Can I present a perspective?
Then what is the norm?
let Robert jump in real quick.
The norm is reasonable people not being at the Capitol at January 6th.
Who?
The norm is reasonable people.
Who?
The norm is reasonable people allowing parents to decide on what their children are being taught
Who?
in school.
Who lead? Give me your leaders. Give me an example of the leaders that you're talking about in Congress. Who?
I'm sorry, but I
You don't
couldn't name
know.
names right
Biden
now. Biden.
literally
Biden.
While he was
wait,
running
wait,
for office.
You can't name one leader in the conservative party that doesn't. Can you name a talk show host like Ben Shapiro or
no,
any
not
other people that don't think? Name one person.
it,
one.
but it's
One person
again,
that
it's-
what?
it's-
One person
it's
that
not
what?
the- just because I can't name a person
No,
doesn't
no, no,
mean
no.
that's
What's the
not the,
question?
that's not
What's
the
the
norm.
question? What's the question? What's the question? What's the question? I can
He
probably
wants
give
he
you a
wants you
name.
to name he wants you to name one representative, and also he kind of diverged also maybe a talking head, but I think his
Against
main point was name one representative in
Congress or the Senate.
yeah, in Congress or the Senate that's a conservative, that's a reasonable one, that isn't like
Dan Crenshaw.
You're
I think
telling
he would
me
actually be
didn't-
one of the
he
more
didn't support the January 6th
He
stuff?
didn't. He thought it
At
was
all.
crazy. I listen to his podcast all the time. He's a very
Yeah.
reasonable guy, and he
But,
calls BS when he calls when with his BS. And I remember
what's the gay guy's name? That's a conservative. He used to be on the Young Turks. I
you
can't
talking
remember.
about,
his name.
Dave Rubin.
That guy's
Yeah,
a
Dave
big
Rubin.
fucking bag of bricks. That guy
Well,
never
good
says
for
anything
you,
worth a
Ben. I'm
shit.
sure everybody's a big bag of dicks.
I
but
gave
you
you
know
a
what?
name though.
Holy
but
fuck,
He
guys,
didn't support
guys,
this. He didn't
honestly,
support
if Dave
January
Rubin is an
6th.
example, that's
Did-
terrible.
but,
Dave
Ben,
Rubin is
did-
one of the worst
Did he
people
or did he
to
not
have a
support January
conversation
6th?
about this shit. This
Did
is what
he-
I'm saying.
did
Why
he or
even
did
bring
he
up Dave
not
Rubin?
support did he or did he not support the fucking January 6th insurrection?
Yes, he did.
How did he?
He's
and we got proof
in
of
fact,
this.
he's one of the people that didn't even think that Trump lost.
How about Mike Pence?
Oh my God.
Well, Jesus Christ. What do you, I mean, so there you go. Mike Pence, of
I
all
gave you
people, the
Dan
guy that they
Crenshaw as
wanted
well.
to kill. But does the Republicans support Mike Pence now?
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Well,
You got to realize that January 6 people, that was not that many, as many as they make it seem. There was a
Well-
lot of people there, but it was nowhere near the whole voting base of Trump. And
Well,
like,
do
if
you
because
it
it's
was-
really
not the
think that
norm.
the
It was
base of
never
the
the
Republican
norm. You
Party
had your
right now
fringe groups
supports
there.
you? Okay, I want you guys on record to saying this. You think the base of the
God.
Republican Party right now supports Mike Pence?
No, they
conservative-
don't. But that has
every
nothing to do
conser-
with January 6th.
Look, I haven't taken a survey
What
of all
if-
conservatives, but one thing I will say is I have yet to come across any conservative in my day-to-day life, and all the conservatives that I speak to who hates Mike Pence or don't support Mike Pence. They like Mike Pence. He's a patriot, somebody we love and care about. I mean,
Okay, what if-
we sort
what
of
if-
had this conversation in the chat where
if
you know
most
when
Republicans,
it came to that 11th hour, Mike Pence did his freaking job.
Let me-
Okay,
let me
the
ask you a
votes were
question.
counted, the votes were
Go
certified.
ahead, Robert.
And
Let
what
Robert
if
in.
what
you
if
know?
what if Ben's question is a little unfair, and
Well, of
not
course it's
because not
unfair.
well let me
Not
pre-
unfair, but go ahead.
present it this way. What if it's not so much that he's being nefarious with his question? He's wanting an honest answer, and you guys are having a hard time giving it to him.
Gave him-
But if you were to ask the same question about liberals and say, name one politician on the left that doesn't support this crazy Antifa riots or you know all that doesn't play into the woke thing. All of our politicians are shitty people that are playing toward whatever extreme they can so they can get as many votes as they can. So I feel like his question to you, while well-intentioned, either side could make that argument, because we don't have any politicians that will critique the woke. Maybe you got Tulsi
Well, wait a
Gabbard.
minute,
She was
Robert.
referenced earlier.
Robert, but
You
you
see
would
how she
agree
gets
that
treated.
the left would more than likely speak out against an Antifa than the right would speak out against January 6th.
I don't know. But I
Because they
think
do. You see Joe Biden.
They
saying,
even
"I don't
deny
agree
an
with
Antifa exists in some cases, man.
No. See, this is what I'm saying. This is the difference. Is we don't accept. the
Jerry
fucking
Nadler said
crazies.
Antifa. What?
Like
Antifa don't-
most Democrats, even if you disagree with them, and I disagree with some Democrats, but they don't accept the fringe element. They don't. When it comes to
I'm-
Antifa,
Joe
they don't
Biden.
accept Antifa. They don't
Bro.
accept the terrorism. They don't accept that kind of shit. The main platform of the Republican Party now is the conspiracy theory Trump platform.
Bro, listen, there are leadership
That is
in
the
the
main
Democrat
base.
Party who literally agrees that children should be able to change their biological sex. I mean, change their gender and have hormone treatment and stuff of that sort. If that ain't fringe, I don't know what is.
Why
kid
is
is not smart.
fringe? That's just
A
that's not
10-year-old is
fringe.
not old enough to decide to change their whole gender.
That
let
is
alone what they gonna
completely
eat for
different
dinner.
than making up
That's
a conspiracy theory, Javier.
If that ain't cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs on the left,
Hey,
I don't know what
Javier,
is.
you ready? You ready, Javier? Because I hope you can fucking answer this question. You ready?
You got a lot of questions.
want
but you're
this
not
on
giving
record.
me
You
any
ready?
answers.
You ready, dude? Give me the equivalent of the left's version of QAnon.
I got an
Okay.
answer for it, but
Look,
I would rather hear Javier's.
to me personally, I don't know. I don't know. I don't
I
know.
wouldn't say there's one as bad as QAnon because
Yeah,
they're not
QAnon's
the same.
crazy.
Drop the mic.
But we
Right.
did have Russiagate.
That
We
doesn't
did have
prove the point
Russiagate.
you were making.
That's
Exactly.
nowhere
Like,
near. That
the
is
point
nowhere
you
near
were
I know
making-
it's not the same, but
That is
The
nowhere
point-
near QAnon.
This
You
is the
cannot
thing, though.
find a group on the left that's
how
like
many
QAnon.
That's true.
how many leaders in the Republican Party are QAnon supporters?
How many people are in Congress that are QAnon supporters?
You give me the answer. I asked
There's
you.
a few.
How many of our
Few.
politicians?
There's a few.
Name them.
That Majority Green chick who
Yeah.
thinks that there's Jewish space lasers and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's her
Fucking
name?
A, dog.
She's a wacko.
Bobert.
Yeah, she's a wacko.
Bobert.
There's
me
a
another
lot
one.
of there's a lot of them that are running in city councils right now.
Most of the politicians in the Republican Party within Congress and Senate do not support QAnon. They
Most
are not
don't.
supporters of the QAnon movement.
Right.
There
But,
should be none.
but
bro.
he was saying that you
Bro,
gotta
there
have
should-
people.
But
There should
honestly,
be-
that's not stopping those QAnon members for running for state senate or various other positions in government.
This
We
is
know
the
that
thing.
for a fact.
This is the thing. This is the thing. Look, I have no dog in this fight over Republicans versus Democrats.
Fair enough.
I don't like
You're
the
a
Republicans
libertarian.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the Republicans either. But people like to paint this picture as if the Democrats are just don't discriminate, like are for the little man, when a lot of their policies actually hurt the little man. I just watched a video about
never
how
said
liberal
that.
policies are actually making homelessness worse. They don't actually implement the things that they said they're going to do once they get in office and actually
and
fix
that's
them.
policy. And you can disagree with
But-
that. That's
but
not the point I'm making.
I don't have a dog in that fight. What I'm
But
saying
I don't
is,
either. I'm not a Democrat. I don't support the Democrats. I only support them when they're shit ass Republicans. That's it.
Okay, okay,
Okay. I don't support Joe Biden or
Go
most of the Democrats. What I don't support is bullshit. I don't support conspiracy theorists. I don't support fucking racists. I just don't. And I don't think I'm like the left where I think everyone's fucking racist. But when you dealing with rational racist thing and it's like, nope, no racism here, nowhere. I'm like, okay, that's delusional. Because even logically, you can go back and look at this stuff and rationally say, okay, there's still some problems that exist, right?
yeah, of course.
Okay,
But
and
what
that's all
saying
I'm
is,
addressing. But
this-
you have to look at the elephant in the room and say, why is there a problem with racism in the Republican Party? You can't just go blame the Democrats for everything for that. You just can't.
I'm
bro.
I'm not just blaming the Democrats. I just think that there is a big discrimination problem, i.e., in my opinion, racist, going on in the Democrat Party that goes largely they go unanswered because
And you think
people
that's bigger than the Republican Party and the racists that are in that party?
Yeah, I think the Democrats are more likely to discriminate or choose something based on your race than the Republicans are.
But
And
that's simply not true.
the Republicans treat me like an individual. The Democrats treat me like a part of my group.
Yeah, that's not being racist. Okay. Having a hate crime and like killing people over that shit or actually fucking doing stuff that's actually discriminatory.
Democrats
that's
do that
racist,
too.
bro.
Democrats do that too. I just gave you, like you said, like I just told you, majority of black people vote Democrat, right? But the Democrats are also the same people who have the Hebrew Israelites, the Nation of Islam people, and they go out and commit hate crimes all the time. They go out and commit hate
Nowhere
crimes
near
against
the same
Jews.
as what
through Asian-
white,
What I'm
white
saying is,
nationalists do, bro.
all right, this is the thing. Just like poverty, for example. I'll give you an example. Most people don't read up on Thomas Sowell. I understand. But one thing that really opened my eyes reading Thomas Sowell is these people are very good at skewing the numbers and the statistics in a way to get a desired outcome. Just like what they did with poverty. They said anybody who made a certain amount of money who didn't get food stamps were suffering from hunger. But what we soon found out was that a lot of people who grew their own food in their backyards and stuff were considered to be starving. Consider like there's so many things. How you set your criteria determines the outcome, and they're very good at this. So once you start to really look at things for what they really are, you'll realize that the numbers ain't really what they're telling you they are. And
Really?
Thomas Sowell paints this out. A lot of the arguments that y'all are making have been debunked thoroughly by Thomas Sowell, but nobody wants to take him serious and actually read his
But
books
what
and
makes
find
you
out what
think
he's
that he
saying.
has? I mean, the reality is why do you believe him more than people that make statistics and
I've
actually
yet
do
to
research?
see anybody debunk anything Thomas
It's
Sowell
like when
said.
Dallas tried to say,
I've-
why do you post links to research? I'm like, that's the fucking most retarded question I've ever heard because I back my shit up with evidence, retard. That's why.
What I'm saying is
To Thomas
But-
Sowell, though, like I would agree with you that the man is apparently a freaking genius, well respected within academia. But I think there's a flaw with him that I feel like the right ignores, and that is that if you're an academic, especially at his level, which is pretty high, and then all of your conclusions and all of the papers that you're submitting and peer review and the documentaries and everything that this guy's doing, books out the ass, and I'm not saying like from his ass. I'm saying like
I get you.
well written. I've come to appreciate a lot of his stuff, but if it's always leaning one political agenda, that's very suspicious, man.
I don't
That's
think Thomas
very
Sowell,
suspicious.
I don't
He's
think Thomas
always
Sowell,
right wing. He's always being used by the conservatives to
Yeah,
push
he's-
whatever they
I
want
think
for
that's
their
more
agenda.
of a conservative problem than a Thomas Sowell problem. I think
Yeah, but
conservatives hang their hat on Thomas Sowell. He didn't tell them to
Yeah.
do that. But here's the thing. I try to always find everything I can disagree with Thomas Sowell because I think that's a very good exercise for me.
Isn't that weird to you though? If somebody's saying something and their arguments are always in defense of like even let's take Jordan Peterson, somebody that is very politically controversial, right? But a lot of the stuff he says, the people on the left will say, oh, he's so right wing and all that, and yeah, he's a dick about trans rights in my opinion, but a lot of his stuff is pro liberal philosophy. So
Yeah.
sometimes he goes right, sometimes he goes left.
Yeah.
Whatever your opinion of him is, at least this is somebody that you could look at and go, okay, this doesn't take away from his professionalism on or his level of knowledge on psychology, because
Yeah.
he seems to go both ways. But Thomas Sowell, I think, who was economics, am I right?
Yeah.
How is it that every time it makes me very
Let me-
suspicious?
let me-
I don't
let-
have a real direct attack
Yeah, I
against
got
him.
you. Let
but-
me explain something. I read a lot of Thomas Sowell, and I think what Thomas Sowell does is he says that we have these problems in America where this is what the narrative is. So what he does is he tries to find the right answer. He tries to go and find
Okay.
out what the truth is behind it.
It's just a weird
and
coincidence.
The evidence leads where it leads. It just so happened that conservatives like his conclusions, and then they therefore adopt it and ring everything on him. And like I said, I try to read his books and find things that I disagree with him, and I try to follow up all of his conclusions. But if Thomas Sowell is being biased, then I would urge anyone to go find all the academics out there who is rebutting his claims and proving him wrong, but yet they don't exist. And
Yeah,
the reason
I
they
don't
don't
know
exist
that, yeah.
is because he has done his due diligence to find every single thing he can to paint the right picture of what's going on. And what they will do is, if the studies don't give them what they are looking for, change the question.
So
Well,
you're saying
look
there's
at the
no
look at the
rebuttals to Thomas Sowell?
look at the what's the fella's name? Charles Murphy
Murray.
just came.
Murray.
Yeah, Murray just came out with a book where he used the statistics from not only education but crime, and basically it breaks down the hierarchy for education example, where the Asians obviously score the highest, followed by whites, Hispanics, then blacks. Then he does crime, of course, for the over the last 30 years, where blacks are at the top of the list, followed by white, I think Hispanics, and then whites. I could be wrong, but it could be whites under blacks, and then Hispanics, and then Asians, or whatever.
Well,
I
depending
mean,
on the crime.
But it
White people like to rape a lot.
that doesn't even matter. But the statistics are showing that these numbers say what they say, and unfortunately, because Charles Murray is the only one who decided to look at these statistics, that immediately he's discounted because he's the same guy from the bell curve, and look at all of the controversy that started.
Yeah, that
But you
was a
know
bunch
what?
of bullshit.
If we're going for this statistics that he's found, and he shows you exactly where he got them from, and all of the charts associated with it, with source links and everything, then what are you going to
Yeah.
say? And I've actually watched interviews with him with guys like Coleman Hughes and John
Sam
McWhorter.
Harris. Yeah.
Sam Harris, exactly, and they talk about okay, wow, if these numbers are telling us what they're telling us. I mean, this isn't about like, oh,
Ben over there
it's a
trying to
racist
find
thing.
a rebuttal.
But
to
no,
Thomas
listen.
Sowell.
Yeah, I know.
I see it
But
all the
listen,
time.
the point I'm
Go
trying
ahead.
to
Go
the
ahead.
point I'm trying to make is
I'm just gonna have to do it later.
anybody can take the work of Thomas Sowell or take the work of Charles Murray and turn it into and weaponize it. Absolutely weaponize it for their political party. The Republicans will pick up on the Charles Murray book and say, well, look at the statistics.
Yeah.
This proves, that, whatever they want to say, black people are savages because they commit the most,
But Robert,
all of this
Robert.
stuff can be weaponized.
I get what you're saying. Let's say that Thomas Sowell has a bias and it tends to lean one way. Okay, let's say that's the case.
I wasn't making that
Yeah,
claim. I was just saying that that's a reason to be
That's
suspicious.
a reasonable question to raise, though. That's a reasonable
Okay.
thing to look at, and that's why I always try to find what I can disagree with him and go try to chase down, because I get smarter in the process. But let's say that he has a bias. At the very least, his books and his writings should at least do one thing for Black people in America. Ask them to really question: is the narrative that they're getting really true?
Right. That's fair.
That's the
fair. And
very least it should do. But
I hate to do this. I just had company walk in, and I gotta
we
go.
are
guys.
company. Nah,
It's cool.
No,
with
trust
time,
me.
baby.
I would much rather talk to you guys.
All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap it up.
You poor
Robert,
bastard.
go ahead. You guys got the last word. Go ahead.
But my last word would just be that I think that if we could add the perspective that the right and their view of the fringe is they have no problem saying that they do not support the fringe of their party, but I think they secretly are very happy that the fringe is doing what they do. They're happy for what they see going on, but they're okay to reject it because they don't face any punishment for rejecting them, but they're glad that that agenda is going on and on the side, right, by the fringe. The left's problem is that they are scared to reject their fringe because they will be judged as immoral, right? But both fringes are causing all the problems, right?
yes.
So whenever guys like us who aren't the fringes are having these arguments, we seem to refer to them to make our defense, and I don't know that that's necessarily a fair perspective, even if it might be accurate. But anyway, I gotta go. You can find me at therighttoreason.com. Thank you so much for letting me join you guys and talk to you today.
Thank you.
All
You've
right,
been
man.
a
Peace out.
pleasure.
Thanks for
man.
being here.
Thanks, Rob.
Jason, go ahead and give your final thoughts, Jason.
I just for me the biggest thing right now is identity politics in this country. It's being weaponized by the woke, and unfortunately I find the dialectic a slippery slope. And what I'm trying to do now, especially with my conversations online with people, is I'll get their attention with the low-hanging fruit, and then I will start to suggest that the dialectic that they're using is a slippery slope that doesn't end, which is how we've wound up now, where we're supposed to just accept things that should not be acceptable. I'm sorry. And, a big thing right now is this idea that parents have no say in their children's education just because they go to public school. That's just crazy to me. I'm glad my kids are out of school right now. They don't have to deal with that. But again, I find this dialectic that's being used my metaphor is a monkey with a machine gun. That monkey's going to pull the trigger and he doesn't care where the bullets go. He's not aiming at anything. He's just letting the bullets fly and it's going to land someplace. And that was a good hit. But I'm sorry. There's a right way to do this and a wrong way to do this, and unfortunately, people are allowing the fringe to dictate terms, and it should not be that way. It should not be that way.
And where can they find you, Jason?
You can find my weak ass music on soundcloud.com/Jason-Hanefeld, HANERFELD.
Awesome.
All
And thank you
right.
so much for being here, Dave, buddy. I really appreciate
Hey,
it. You
no-
want to
no
hang out till
problem.
the end?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Javier?
My wife's away. There's no Cool Whip time for me, baby.
Yeah. Well, I understand that the day and age that we live in, people can find information that supports their position any and everywhere. And there are going to be times where you have the wrong information. And if you are proven to be wrong, you have to say, I'm wrong. Ben Farmer, you make some claims. I made some claims. Whichever one ends up being wrong, if it's me, I'll gladly admit it because I just learned something. And this is the thing about politics in our day and age. Everybody's talking about it. And I don't think human beings are designed to just focus on so many complex issues and try to come to every right answer. So what we do is simplify and we allow other people to make those decisions for us. And it's reached a place to where now regular average people, instead of going to work and caring about their families and stuff, they're literally fighting each other and yelling at their neighbors and distancing themselves from their kids, like, because this is toxic. And I really think that we have to find a way to separate, the political from the everyday world that we live in. And like I say, I'm not a defender of the Republicans. I'm not a defender of the Democrats. And I am guilty of this, Ben, and Jason, I am guilty of this. And I think most of us are. Oftentimes, I go after the left more than I go after the right. I tend to find everything that's wrong with the left and try to pick at it. But I don't do just the same amount of due diligence on the right. And that's a flaw. And we all tend to do that at times. So I'm trying to do better with that. And I think we all can learn and grow that way. Like I said, I do my best to try to scrutinize people that I agree with, find out where their flaws are and try to chase it down and see if I can learn something. And that's where I got as far as I did now. And I'm still learning. I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm just happy that we can sit down, have this conversation, disagree adamantly about something, and I still love y'all at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying?
You're
about.
all right with me. Hey, I'm an independent too, man. I had to back away from both parties. It's making me sick.
So Ben,
I don't understand how some of these old Republicans live so long, man. I just don't get it.
Ben, I want you to take us out, brother. Go ahead and lay it all out.
I would never ask a conservative to be a liberal. In fact, I don't even think that's really my intention. I might debate and argue about it. I think there are some things that I will hold very, 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 very strong to, that I think that if Republicans listened carefully about what I'm saying, I think you would actually find that they would actually get a lot further, even if I disagree with them. And mainly the two things that I actually have the biggest problems with is the conspiracy part, and when it is racism. I think those two things are holding back the Republican Party, honestly. Even if I might disagree on taxes, I might disagree on foreign policy, but there's okay to have disagreements. I worry that that is going to be the platform of the Republican Party. And I'm saying that as someone who has a father that's a Republican, who's been around Republicans all his life, okay? That's not the conservatism that I knew growing up either. And it's not the conservatism I know from my own father. So I'm not just saying this because I have a different point of view, because it's okay to have a different point of view. You guys could probably debate taxes on me right now, and I probably wouldn't know what the fuck to defend it with, okay? But I'm literally saying this as someone who's generally concerned about what the direction is happening. And I think that if we're going to have conversations about taxes or guns or these other things, that there's some elephants in the room that we need to kick out. And I agree that there's a lot of shit on the left that is fucked up when it comes to the woke shit. And I say it all the time. My wife, she hears me all the time saying like, hey guys, you're taking this to the point of fucking obnoxiousness. I can't speak for all the left. I'm sorry. I know I have left leaning tendencies, but I speak for myself. I can't speak for the elements of what the fuck it is. And if they want to go down that fucking rabbit hole, they're going to fucking find the same fate as anybody else to do that. But the question is that if we can't do that, then what? If we can't have any control over any of these other people in doing that, because I don't imagine either one of you guys are racist. And I know you guys don't think I'm one of the woke left. So then where does that leave us?
Yeah, I want to say that, I'm concerned about it as well. I'm concerned about the conspiracy theories, the vile, reprehensive stuff that I've seen going on the right. I am concerned. I think anybody should be concerned if you care. And like I said, I'm concerned about the left as well, but I don't want the left to be an enemy, and I don't want the right to be the left's enemy, because if we are bettering ourselves, everybody wins. Everybody wins. So you can't believe that if only my party exists and we just let them just go all wild and crazy over there, that's somehow going to make the country better. These people still exist. They're out there and they're going to cause mayhem. So we have to figure out a way to either bring enough people with us to where they don't matter, or to convert some of those people into those people. And I think this podcast is very important for that. And I'm glad we had Robert on, and I'm glad we had Jason on, because it clearly shows that while me and you disagreed a lot on a certain particular issues of racism and things of that sort, one of us might be wrong, or both of us might have some truth that if you put it together, you might realize, oh, they both right here, or whatever. And the viewer gets to hear two people with nuanced views provide value. And I think that's what it's about. And I just think that this was a productive conversation, and we don't have to keep going on any further from here. Ben, make sure you tell everybody where they can find you as well.
If you're into crazy shit, I film a lot of crazy shit. Actually, I'm getting ready to start doing this project, which I'm doing right now on my other channel. If you guys could check out ihctmedia.com. We go out, we film shootings, we film car accidents, we film fires. It's a really eye-opening experience when you see the world raw, and we literally show it to you raw. Unlike the news that tries to sanitize stuff, and there are things I have to sanitize because I know the audiences want to see it, but I know a lot of people don't like the media and they don't trust the media. And when I go out there, I try not to take an opinion on anything. I just shoot what it is. And I think that hopefully it's a new way that news can be broadcast. But if you guys are interested in seeing the real world for how it really is, and it's actually not political, to be honest with you, that's what I like about it. It's not politics. It's just, here's what's happening. ihctmedia.com or my Twitter channel. Basically go out, I shoot new stuff, but I don't consider myself the news. I consider myself the anti-news. And I'm about seeing the world as it is. And so if you see a dead body on my stream, that's because that's what happened. If you see somebody losing their house with a fire, that's because that's the real world, because there's people out there dealing with real shit. And I think at the end of the day, all this other shit we debate about, it's comfortable in front of a camera doing this. But when I'm out there, I think that's what's really happening in people's lives, man. People are losing their family members. There's accidents happening. There's drunk drivers. Like, all of this is meaningless shit in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, not meaningless, but there's more to life to it. And if you like that kind of stuff, you can follow it. If it makes you uncomfortable, cool, don't follow it. But ihctmedia.com.
Yeah. So you heard that, ladies. If you like it raw, you know where to go find it. Yeah. But y'all can find me at the Javier Show. That's Javier. Make sure you spell it twice. Come over there and check out all of my videos. I do music video reactions. I do politics, religion, and culture. That's my thing. So just a little bit of something there for everybody. Thank both of y'all. This was a great conversation. And until next time, y'all, peace and glory. We out.
Thanks to you too, Javier. Peace out, guys.
Yeah, take it easy.
1 in a million to one villain. Too hot to be in the kitchen, out in the melting the ceiling.